Today on the podcast, let's get our basketball fix, and we have enough news to get Derek Piper back on the line, back on the podcast, because we got schedule to break down. Derek, everyone loves their schedule release shows, right? Gotta love these. A little bit of recruiting news, and then I'm just gonna throw. This is an old school radio segment we used to do. It's called This or That. We did this on the radio show. They just kind of throw two things at you, and you tell me which one you think is going to be right. So we'll do that a little bit later on. But what's up, man? We're inching closer to basketball. And I think we're getting a little bit of workouts, but that 20-hour week is coming up shortly here.
Yeah, for sure. I know we'll have Big Ten Media Days early October, about 2 months away, a little bit less for the season opener against Eastern Illinois, and starting to get into basketball mode. I know you guys on the football side, tough loss against Indiana. Hope that Illinois can bounce back against Virginia, keep the interest up, and try to push this thing along. We don't need it another September where you're saying is it basketball season yet? And just drag out that wait. But you know me, I'm always excited to talk hoops, and we're gonna do that today. But yeah, curious your thoughts on a big game coming up on Saturday against Virginia.
Well, I got to ask you. You're the guy who always wins the prediction game. The basketball guy always wins the prediction game with football, and I never hear the end of it. But that's fine. I hate the prediction stuff. I know it's entertaining for people. I think this is a toss-up game. I really do. I think Virginia obviously has the quarterback advantage coming into this one, the passing game advantage coming into this one. But as hard as that one was against Indiana, like there are things I like about this Illinois football team. Just stop shooting yourself in the foot, right? Like and be able to score points in the second half, like even against Penn State and Minnesota, that was an issue. All right. And the defense made enough stops. So that's my big thing. So, but we got to know where you're leaning. You're the ball guy here.
Yeah, some of that's luck, let's be honest. And some of it has been just fading Illinois, which I'm not trying to do as much because I believe, as you've said, you believe in this coaching staff a lot more than Lovie Smith. How could you not? I'm in the same boat as well. And it's interesting that Vegas has Illinois favored by as many points as they do. And
that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like,
right. I know. I mean, Brennan Armstrong is really talented. You can't ignore the 400 yards and 5 touchdowns he put up on you last year. Ryan Walters will want redemption. I think that he'll have a good game plan going forward. And if you could run the ball, which it seems like Virginia's front seven and just run defense is pretty soft, and Chase Brown has been amazing. That's been your guy for a long time. And man, he looks all the part of that NFL prospect you've been tabbing. So I'm leaning Illinois, to be honest with you. You got to check out all the preview and predictions. Maybe we'll differ. Maybe this will be the separator as far as who will pull ahead in the standings, but you'll have to check that out on Illini Inquirer.
Yeah, people know on the pod already. I'm sticking to my preseason prediction, which was a 4-point Virginia win, which some people might have saw as a hot take of being closer than they expected. But I'm going to stick with that. I don't want to make huge, changes, but I would not be shocked if Illinois wins. But that's enough football talk on a Piper podcast. The schedule dropped today, Derek. I am the least excitable guy when it comes to the schedule release show. Other than I can tell my wife, here's the schedule. Here's what it looks like. But it is fascinating, right? To see how this plays out, what the schedule will look like. So the Big Ten finally releases the dates. We already knew the opponents. We knew Illinois had an advantageous schedule. I'll just reiterate this for people who don't know. Out of the 8 teams, the 7 of the other 8 teams that finished top 8 in the Big Ten last year, Illinois only plays the 2 other teams twice. And that's Wisconsin and Michigan. So that's very advantageous. They get the 4 bottom teams 2 times. But as the schedule lays out, Derek, what was your biggest takeaways?
I first want to ask you, are you more excited by schedule talk or jersey talk? Which jerseys they're going to wear, or how the schedule breaks down? Which one gets you more piped up?
Yeah. What has a big, that's a good question. I mean, I enjoy jerseys. Like the hot takes about them sometimes a little bit much for me, but I think Illinois basketball is in a great place with jerseys. So once they got rid of the zigzags, once they got rid of those old school ones,
the gray alternates too. We don't see those anymore.
Yeah. I don't need that. I was over that the first time football did it, but yeah, I think football could use a little bit more consistency, and I think Bielema's trying to bring that. But basketball, man, like the script, the throwbacks there and the script flying Illini jerseys, you should never have to change that again. Like they don't ever complicate things. Those should be your main two jerseys, I think, moving forward. So I think I'd rather talk jerseys at this point because Illinois basketball is in such a good place with them. Because the schedule is the schedule, right? Whenever you play a team, you play a team. Sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. But I understand the interest in it, right? It's fun to think of what the end of this schedule looks like, what the middle look, you know what I mean? I can understand that. And plus, you want to know when you can go see a game. So I get it.
Yeah, no doubt. And on that note, it is fun to, at least now that Illinois is in the mode for their fans, to think about winning a Big Ten title, defending, trying to go back to back, and what that closing stretch will look like as you're trying to seal that. And we'll get into that as we go in terms of it is a challenging end of the schedule. And then also the beginning. We knew that the non-conference was going to be a test when you have the main event out there in Vegas with UCLA and then either Baylor or Virginia. You got Texas with the Jimmy V Classic. I didn't know. I thought that the Big Ten games would come after Texas and you get two in a row because that's what we've seen here in the past. But actually slotting in Maryland, the one place Brad Underwood has not won on the road in the Big Ten. So you're going to go UCLA, another game in Vegas. You get Lindenwood in there, and then the ACC Big Ten Challenge. Go to Maryland, play Texas, and that's kind of a 4 or 5 day stretch. You're going to have Maryland on the road, and then Texas and New York in the Jimmy V Classic. And Penn State at home is a favorable one early on for your first Big Ten home game, but we could break it all down as far as the details. But it is always intriguing to look at different pockets of the schedule, especially for a team that's new and going to be trying to vibe together and gel early on. I think that this stretch, late November into December, is really going to say a lot about them and how quickly they can get it together. And then also there's a soft part there in the middle where, to your point earlier on, you're going to take advantage of getting some of those bottom tier teams mixed in with the rest of your Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, Derek, you hit on it. I think they have an early prove it month, right? They get an exhibition and then they get 3 non-conference games against lower level opponents. I'll call them cupcakes. It's okay. Those are bye games, right? And then it gets real in a hurry. You're going to find out at least how talented you are. But you're also going to find out how together this team is, because I think we both know they're going to have some hiccups early on because they got to find a way to gel. They got to find these roles. But as you said, November 18th to December 10th, you have 6 high major opponents in 7 games. UCLA, one of Baylor or Virginia. Those are all ranked teams, right? Syracuse, at Maryland, Texas, and Penn State. So I think their capabilities and kind of the cohesion of the roster is really going to be tested, which is fun. Like I love this I love Brad Underwood era non-conference now that they're winning games. Like this is a lot of fun when you test yourself like this. You're invited to things like the Jimmy V Classic and the main event, right? Like these are premier opportunities to get better, but also to be seen, right? Like these are great recruiting opportunities too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you throw in not only roles for guys on the team, but new playing styles at both ends of the floor and how that mixes in. And Brad has always said it. I want to find out early. I want to find out what I have. I want to find out how we respond to adversity. And I don't want to be sitting in December or even early January having not been tested, and all of a sudden we're going to get punched in the mouth. And yeah, for fans and for us,
it's happened
the
last couple of years. Arizona a couple of years ago. A couple of years ago they were 9-5, and we're thinking, what do they have here? And then of course last year, starting off the season 2-2, Kansas City is a low point.
Yeah, actually, this is one. It'll be tough to do against the schedule, but starting faster would be something that the fan base would certainly enjoy. But it's going to be a challenge because of all of the reasons that we just gave. But I think that that's a good opportunity for them if they were to win a big game in Vegas against UCLA, who's going to be probably a top 10 team. You look at Bart Torvik, and those are all 4 in the field are top 20 teams. UCLA and Baylor is going to be probably preseason number 2. So that's going to be a big opportunity. Texas is currently projected in that top 10, top 15 caliber range when you're going to face them in New York. And I mean, the Jimmy V Classic is always one of those marquee non-conference events for college basketball that people, it's getting eyes from all over the country. So to your point, exposure is going to be a big deal, big opportunity for you there. And then just finding out about your basketball team and trying to put some wins that could really move the needle when you get to March and you start talking about your resume and what seed you're going to be. Those are big opportunities, but also big tests, because if you take a couple losses, then you're starting to worry about this team's going to have a new leader, a couple new leaders, just kind of a new group together. How do they handle that? You don't have the Trent Frazier's of the world, I would assume, moves to kind of right the ship. As you said, when they face some of those rocky stretches in the past, I think that'll be really interesting. One note I will say, I think you're probably, a lot of people were disappointed. I think people even around the program were disappointed. You got Syracuse in the Big Ten ACC. You didn't get Duke. You didn't get North Carolina. You didn't get one of those marquee ones. Now you're probably like, thank you. Thank you. We don't have to throw one of those in already with what is already going there in late November into December.
What I love about that game is you should win it. Syracuse, it shouldn't be very good, but they should be talented, right? They're usually talented. And it's just a different look. Like it's something where I think it plays to your advantage when you have guys like Coleman Hawkins and Matthew Meyer and Dane Danger and good passers, Ty Rogers, all that. But it's just different. It's something different you have to deal with that you can at least have in your experience there. I always look for break games here, Derek. And two big games are while students are on break. That's what I mean. Like students not in school from, mid-December to mid-January. They start school, I think, January 17th, 18th in there. Well, the two games before that, Wisconsin, Michigan State. So you and I know sitting courtside, it's a heck of a lot different in State Farm Center when students are there compared to, hey, when all of us old people get to sit in those seats, which are pretty sweet, right? But we're not as loud. We're not as obnoxious. Certainly not as obnoxious as some of the Orange Crush members. And it makes a difference. So it's always going to be at State Farm Center, a home court advantage is certainly different. So those are two big games, obviously, with Wisconsin, Michigan State. So I think you'd rather have a Penn State or a Minnesota or somebody there. You didn't get a break, I think, in those break games.
Definitely agree. We saw it even last year. I believe that Purdue and even the Michigan game were break games. Now, it's the Orange Crush members are given a chance to buy those tickets and they get those opportunities first, just whether or not it's going to work out to whether they're going to come back to campus early. And I think that a game like a Michigan State or even a Wisconsin, depending on which is the later one, maybe you get a bigger draw student wise. I think we saw that for Michigan. A lot of people wanted to make sure they were in the building for Hunter Dickinson, even though he didn't play, and excited for that.
That is the difference of now, right? Like when the team is good, those students get here a couple of days early for a basketball game.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, you would rather play a game where you feel pretty good about winning and don't need that extra push of the Orange Crush, at least just to make an opponent feel that environment that, look, when the program's been back, it's been at a high level and been one of the tougher places to play in the Big Ten. And yeah, Wisconsin, Michigan State, big challenges coming in.
More weekend games for fans. I mean, as a media member with family, I kind of like having the weekday games, but for fans, I get it. Like having a Friday, Saturday night game or day game, like those, you can center your weekend around. Maybe the kids can go, all of that different stuff. Last year, you only had 2 Friday and Saturday Big Ten home games, Rutgers and Michigan. This year, you get Penn State on a Saturday, Wisconsin on a Saturday, Michigan State on a Friday, and Rutgers on a Saturday. So fans get to enjoy that. But Derek, you mentioned the close. Illinois needs to take advantage of its strength of schedule, which is not very strong, as Isaac Trotter broke down up on the site right now, because the final 5 games are not easy. You have Northwestern at home in the middle of that, but you travel to Indiana, and you and I know that's one of the toughest places to play in the Big Ten. They should be pretty good, right? Very talented team. You travel to Ohio State, which has never been an easy matchup for Illinois. I know you're high on Ohio State. Your boy Robbie Hummel is high on Ohio State as well. And then the season finale, couldn't ask for anything better. Illinois traveling to Marquee Arena, which for my money has been the best atmosphere in the Big Ten. I never thought someone would top Indiana. Purdue and Marquee have topped it the last couple of years. Just electric in there. The students are nuts. And then you have Michigan at home and involved in all of that 5 games. So if Illinois wants to win the Big Ten, they got to take advantage of the early schedule there, because the end of the schedule is going to make them earn it.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a fascinating end of the season. You get Dickinson and then Zach Edey as your last 2 games. And for a team that now obviously doesn't have Kofi Coburn, we're talking about what life after Kofi's going to look like and how well this team handles it. Well, there's your big chance. You got a lot of time to figure it out throughout the season, but Dickinson to play in Champaign against Illinois and finally have the fan base get to see him up close and personal. Maybe you don't want to see him this year because Kofi's not there to get the better of him, which he has in most of those matchups. But then also, there's no doubt about it, Mackey's been the best environment in the Big Ten for the last 5, 7 years, however long we've been on this site, through that stretch, Mackey's been the best. And to close things out there, it will be interesting who Illinois in that mix, which I imagine they will at least be in contention for a Big Ten title at that point. Indiana has a brutal stretch to close out as well. I wrote down 6 of their last 7. They get Michigan twice, at Michigan State, at Purdue, Illinois at home, and Iowa at home. So they've got a gauntlet as well. But yeah, I mean the Illinois at IU game is going to be one to circle too, and it'll be quite a thrilling push down the stretch, and we'll know a lot more about this team. I think to that point, Illinois, I think it's good to have a challenging, especially on the road, for a team that could take some time to mesh. By then, they'll be plenty battle tested. They'll know what the roles are and what the ideal play style is, and be able to figure some things out. And Rod Underwood teams have surged late in the season. I think that if you're an Illini fan trying to look at them getting another Big Ten title, that would be a way that I'd look at it as far as positive.
I was just thinking about this, Derek. I was looking it up. I don't know if the odds are even in yet. But who's going to be the odds? I mean, Indiana probably the odds-on favorite to win the Big Ten, but that schedule of theirs is you just mentioned. They play the bottom 4. They play once, right? Like they have one of the toughest schedules in the Big Ten outside of like the Northwesterns of the world that can't play themselves. I'm looking at the national title odds of the Big Ten teams from June, and Michigan was the top one at that time. I think that's changed with Houston and Diabate gone. They had Illinois next, Indiana next, Purdue, Michigan State, Ohio State, Iowa. Man, I don't know if I'd bet on a team like if it was plus 300 or lower, right? Like I just don't. I think it's going to be such a fun ride because I do think Indiana, if you're going on paper, probably the highest floor, but do they have the highest ceiling? I mean, last year they won 9 games. I know they're talented. I know they get some key guys back, but I still got to see it with them. And I just don't know if they're head and shoulders above all these other teams in the Big Ten. I know you love Ohio State. I really like Iowa. I'm with you. I think Ohio State's going to be better than people think. And if Michigan State would have gone to the portal, I probably would have liked to have picked them, but they decided to kind of stay pat and have a good team instead of a great team.
Yeah, Michigan State maybe a piece or two away from being in that mix. Purdue a point guard away maybe from being a team that you would predict as a potential Big Ten title winner. They still couldn't do it, but there's a big question mark there. Indiana, to me, I've done my way too early power rankings for the Big Ten, not taking into account the schedule itself because of the high floor, because of the returners. I'd put Indiana as number 1 in the power rankings, but then you look at the schedule and it's brutal for them. So I don't know. I don't know who would be the odds-on favorite. It's hard to say Illinois because of so many uncertainties, so many new players. One thing, as you continue to look at it in January, when you're trying to map out how the schedule or how the standings are going to play out, early on, Illinois' tough games are at home, and the road games, their first 3 road games in January, I think, are Nebraska, Northwestern, and Minnesota, who are maybe the 3 worst teams in the league. So that certainly helps. But yeah, like you said, it could be a number of different teams. I think Ohio State will be a lot better than people think. Iowa, you talk to people on the road this summer, and people in the Big Ten still think Iowa's going to be pretty darn good. I mean, even though on paper some teams or some people don't like them as much as some other teams, but yeah, it's anyone's guess. I don't know. It'd be hard to pick Indiana because of wouldn't be hard, but there is that hang up of the schedule. Even though I think they are the most proven team.
Listen, a lot of Indiana haters are listening to this right now, so they hate that conversation. But I think it's fair. Like if you're an objective observer, Illinois has a lower floor, right? Than that team. I mean, there's no guarantee this all works. Like all this gels, and Terrence Shannon turns into a number 1 or Matthew Meyer. Those guys haven't had to do that, right? Like so, all these guys are playing different roles. I think Illinois' ceiling is really high. Just the talent, the way they play. I like how Iowa plays. I think Purdue's a tournament team. I think Michigan State's a tournament team. I think Ohio State could be interesting, but kind of the same questions about Illinois is how do these new parts kind of gel? It's a Big Ten, Derek, that I'd love to have Illinois as like the dark horse, right? Like they would normally be a dark horse because Michigan or Michigan State would be really good. Indiana could be like a fun pick to win the Big Ten. It's hard to find that team. Like there's not that, like Michigan is not that team this year. Michigan State is not that team this year. So all these teams that I kind of like, but I have big questions about. That's what should make it fun. We'll see if it's fun for the conference come March, but maybe maybe that's the key, is to not have a lot of hype going into the season, unlike the last couple of years.
Maybe that'll be the difference. But yeah, that's as we look at the holes that different teams have. Indiana 3-point shooting, Illinois just being new pieces. How do you adjust after Kofi? And you just go on down the line. That's why you don't see a preseason. I mean, Indiana might be the only preseason top 15 team nationally from the Big Ten, and I don't think that will be a consensus. I think that some will have them outside of that, and definitely outside of the top 10. There's no, you're not going to see any Big Ten teams in the preseason national top 10.
I think Indiana will. I think the hype
so?
train will carry Indiana top 10. They're 11th in the Torvik rankings. So I think people will want that. I can understand. Yeah. I can understand people wanting to put them there. But yeah, I think they'll get in there. But again, I think you and I, like, we know they can play defense. We know they got some talent. Can they score? Can they shoot? Like, I still have to see Tamar Bates do that. I have to see, can, Geronimo do that? Can Hood Schifiano, who's not known, or Hood Schifino, can he shoot? I mean, that's not his strength. Like, so at some point you have to score points, and Indiana still has to prove that.
Yeah, definitely. But I think that, to what you were saying about Illinois fans are definitely, they're not the only fan base that's, whoa, really? Indiana barely made the tournament last year. Had they not beat Michigan in that early game in the Big Ten tournament, probably wouldn't have made it. Indiana, if you're trying to think about things for them to go right, same thing with Illinois, where if Illinois is going to say, well, we have Terrence Shannon and Meyer, proven college players, Power 5, all conference type of guys. But then if you start saying, well, Sky Clark, well, if you're going to give Illinois Sky Clark, then Jalen Hood-Schifino, who's ranked a little bit higher than him, probably going to be pretty darn good for Indiana too, you would imagine. And they have Xavier Johnson, they have Trace, they have Race.
Well, and as much as Illinois fans want to talk about RJ Melendez and Coleman Hawkins, which they should be excited about those guys. Indiana fans can equally be. I mean, Geronimo was playing great at the end of last year. Tamar Bates is a former 5-star prospect that they think can take another level, and they have Trace Jackson Davis, who's better than anybody on Illinois, at least at this point. So, yeah, they have reason to buy their team. You have reason to buy your team. They're a little bit more proven together. Illinois still got to show.
I think that'll help Indiana be more consistent and we've seen that with Illinois when they've been one of the more experienced teams in the Big Ten. You have guys that have played together for a long time and they play good defense. Illinois, a big part of them having this type of success they have in conference, they've been one of the better defensive teams in the league, and that's allowed you to be consistent night in and night out. And I think Indiana will just have more consistency, but again, the schedule is going to be tough for them. Even their non-conference. I mean, they get North Carolina, Arizona, and Kansas all in the non-con. So
that's fun.
It is fun. It is fun. That's what the people want. Give the people what they want.